Ingrid, thank you for coming to 160 Studios. You over on the other coast the past couple weeks,
Yep.
but you made some time to come on over and spend some sit down with me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You and I have been at this, trying to do this for the last 2 years.
Yes, we have. We have.
We've had crossed wires, but here we are.
And I'm so glad to be here.
Me too. Good to have you here.
Yeah.
So we got a chance to catch up recently. I have met up in Toronto, and we nailed this down. And I really wanted to talk about the efforts you have going on, the programs you have going on, the genesis of them, and what is it about those that really possess you and drive you to the success that you've had there?
So let's start with what I do.
Yes.
So right now I am the Executive Director of Diversity by Doing Health Tech. And this initiative came out of Stanford Biodesign and Fogarty Innovation. And the way that it started was they did a gender survey. And Dr. Paul Yak, who a lot of people know, he's renowned. We pulled the survey together because he had a couple of the women coming up to him saying, no, they didn't feel like things were as equitable as they could be. No, they didn't necessarily feel that they were as respected as they could be. And so through the survey, the results that came back really shocked him. And they decided to do something about it. So they pulled together a convening and they had a summit and they said, okay, so what can we do? We can talk about this all day long, but what can we actually do? And so out of that came one of the initiatives that we run, which is speed mentoring. And speed mentoring was started for women specifically with the intention of really keeping them in the industry, because it's not only attracting people to the industry, it's retaining them. So the whole speed mentoring concept is build your network, find other people that you can connect with, hear some good stories. We talk about career development. We talk about personal development. We talk about the importance of mentorship. And what we found, that program's been running for 5 years now. I joined 3 years ago. So there was already something in place, a really solid footprint to start. And that's how this entire initiative began. When I came in, I said it's called Diversity by Doing. So let's broaden our aperture. Let's look at everything that we can do that's non-traditional in med tech.
And you and I have had this discussion, and Kwame and others. You know, we've got a real challenge with a zero-sum game going on in the med tech industry, because what we do is we tend to, on a broader scale, only hire those who look like us, med tech people.
Right.
And then within that, we never seem to increase the talent pool outside of the given categories.
Yeah. When I started, we really focused on the small and mid-sized companies, Joe, because we thought if we could change their DNA early on and get them to pay attention to the fact that they don't have to go to the same places that everybody else goes to get their talent, that perhaps when the strategics purchase them, they actually already look like a really diverse tapestry that we want to have within the industry. I have a famous saying that I share with people that I'm close to, which is if you fish in the same pond, you get the same fish. And that's what's happened in med tech. As I came into this business and I would go to different sessions and panels and conferences, and I would look up at the stage and everybody looked alike. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Some people are doing a good job. I'm not going to say that everybody's not doing a great job. But I think curation of talent is going to be a big part of that. You need to be able to get more people into the industry. And in order to do that, I think you have to have programs that are practical and applicable, that allows them to see where they fit in this space.
And, you know, I've always said this, is the credit card companies start earlier. The tobacco companies used to start earlier, right? So let me get a credit card in a 15-year-old's hands because I've got them for life. The device industry, while it tries, probably has to compete with the Apples and the NVIDIAs and the Teslas on campus.
Yes.
But the campuses they're going to are the obvious campuses.
Yes.
And you've been pretty active and influential in looking at other campuses.
Right. You know, we focus on community colleges, and the reason is they don't have the same assets available to them that a four-year student might. And not only that, the prototype of a student at a community college could be anywhere from 20 to 50 years old. They could be reskilling, they could be upskilling. They don't have the same access that four-year college students do. So we focus there very, very intentionally on bringing that talent in. And you raise a good point. one of the things I talk to our students about all the time in our programs is, okay, you're getting your degree. What career are you looking at? What industry are you considering? Do you want to be another person that just works at a big tech company? Or do you want to come into an industry where you can make a difference that you can see, that's going to impact you, your family, and your community? And all of a sudden, the light bulbs come on. You know, they were going for their mechanical engineering degree. They were going for their chemical. They were going to do research. But now research and this work getting into med tech really turns them on. They all of a sudden are like, oh my God, I never even thought about it. To them, that was like brushing their teeth, but they didn't know who made the toothbrush or the toothpaste. Now they want to be the ones involved in the process.
And it's interesting because we don't do a good enough job of advertising to the graduating or soon graduating population, whether it's just we don't think we have the swagger when we really do.
Yep. Yes.
We really do. And I find that, you know, in my seat as a headhunter, that you get the youngins come out and it's not cool at a graduation or thereafter going, well, I'm going to Baxter to make a Foley catheter, right?
Right, exactly.
I'm going to go over here, I'm going to work on software when really at you know, Google, but really you're keeping somebody on a browser for another 27 seconds. And when you realize that, you get into your late 20s, like, okay, there's something bigger around me and I should pay attention to. But by then, our industry doesn't open its arms to those that were not born here or can't prove a legacy in the industry.
Exactly. One of the things that we point to, that we talk to people about all the time, and one of the things that I love about what we do, we take our students, we put them with companies, and so they can actually see what the technology does, how it improves sort of patient health outcomes, why it should matter to them. And all of a sudden, when they're touching that technology and saying, okay, so here's how you break up a clot, they're all of a sudden fascinated with that. Because of course they know people who have blood clots. First thing I ask them the first day is, how many people in your family have had some kind of illness, whether it's diabetes, whether it's heart problems, whether it's hearing problems? People raise their hands all the time. It is part and parcel of their lives. And the sooner that they realize that and that they can do something about it, that's when you see them change. So getting them really young, I mean, community college is, you know, relatively young, although I said there's some returning people. But when they go and see, like for instance, the robotic surgeries that we bring them to see, or different kidney processes that they can look at, then they understand it and they want to do it.
You know, it's interesting. Ivan Tornos from Zimmer Biomet yesterday announced the relationship with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
And he is the chief movement officer or something like that. Like that's the, and some people gave Zimmer Biomet heat for that, like, oh, what did you pay for that? And how much did that add to the implant cost? And I just said, you know, guys, girls, like, celebrate the fact that somebody's shining a light on what we're doing.
Yes.
Because it's always kept in the back. What we do, we should be loud and proud about.
We should be very loud and proud about it. And I think that the work of diversity, by doing that, that's where our focus is. It's what gets me up every morning. It's what gets me going every day. The fact that I know that everybody that we touch is in a class, whether it's gender, culture, race, you name it, in a class that is not necessarily represented well right now in medtech, but should be. So we make it our personal mission to make sure that we're developing that talent pipeline and that we're turning that interest there. And, you know, like I said before, the retention is huge. A lot of folks go into these businesses, they might get hired. If they're not treated well, Joe, when they're there, if they don't feel like they belong when they're there, they leave. And I always say when they leave, they tell all their friends. And all of a sudden, now you have a reputation of a company that doesn't necessarily embracing a level of differentness or representation.
You mentioned something earlier about reskilling.
Yes.
And I think that's becoming, upskilling and reskilling is becoming a very important discussion that needs to happen. Because in the seat I sit in, again, as a headhunter, I'm almost 63 years old, and I'm watching these people in their mid-50s now who are working at these large organizations. And these large organizations, for the first time in medtech at scale, have started to lay off massive numbers of people.
Yes.
And so you've been at a large strategic for 20, 25 years. You've been doing the same job or same function, and you really haven't stayed up to speed on where industry is going, especially as we start to slide into this digital transition we're in right now. And so they're part of that cost cutting, and they're coming home with children entering college or in college and making a nice salary, but now a house that's got them locked, a personality, a sort of a career personality's got them locked. Where do they go from there? What's D-by-D doing on the reskilling side?
So on the reskilling side, we're looking at the breadth of students that are available out there. And so for us, again, it's the community college students. I would say in the next cohort of students we have coming into our Pathways program, at least 5 of them are around the age of 40. They are former EMTs, they're former nurses, they're former people that have had careers. They've got great careers, but they want to do more, and they recognize the speed of technology is really driving everything. So the sooner that they can get back into that seat of learning, the sooner they're going to be able to upscale their career.
And I love that, because you're already, if somebody were to connect with you and say, I'd love to see who you've got coming out in the next cohort.
Absolutely.
The people who are not recruited by you, they come to you, so they're hyper motivated.
They're extremely motivated. Most of them are first generation. We have 25 slots that we do for our Pathways program currently. I'd love to expand that nationally, but right now we run it in the Bay Area. We have over 75 applicants. And it is tough for us to go through and really sort of suss out who's going to be in the program, who's not in the program. But one thing about Diversity by Doing is we don't leave anybody behind at all. If you don't get in our program, we stay in touch with you. We're tracking you. We're inviting you to come back and try again next time, because it's a lot of work. We're lucky that we've established some relationships with a couple of agencies that look to hire interns specifically that have been curated by D-by-D. And that grew over 3 years. When I started this work, I didn't have that in my line of sight. I had, let's get more people into the industry. Let's attract more representation into the industry. I never said, and let's get them internships, and let's find them jobs. Well, that's part of what has come out of it. And it's fascinating to me because it's absolutely doable. Some of the companies we work with in the beginning said, I only hire my interns from X school or Y school, the Ivy Leagues. I've never hired a community college student. They work with them. They find out how smart they are. They always talk about, they ask really good questions. I said, yes, because they're very driven. And the statement I'll never forget is one of the companies said that the group that they worked with asked better questions and knew more about their organization than their new hires. So just think about that. Those are people who graduated with 4-year degrees, gave out their resume, got hired, and don't have the same capacity as the young and hungry.
I'm not surprised. And there's a number of reasons for that.
Yeah.
Let's cover the subject of DEI today, and let's cover it given the environment we just came out of.
Right.
So we just came off of an election.
Yep.
And again, regardless of what side you wanted to win, this is where we are. And there's been lots of debrief on one of the reasons why Trump won over Kamala. And some of it has to do with that the Democratic Party had used DEI and weaponized it against the current status. And with that, there was a pushback, reflexive pushback obviously by the populace of, I'm all for it. And as you pointed out earlier, it's been around for a long time under different names.
Yeah.
So what's your perspective on that, and how do we heal that and get that back on the rails?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, first of all, we have to disarm the words, Joe. We've got to get away from using words as clubs and using words as a way to manipulate people, for lack of a better word. And I really do think both sides weaponized it.
I would agree.
One side weaponized it saying you must do this. The other side weaponized it saying I'm not doing that. And so in the middle you've got nothing.
You've got victims.
Yeah, you have a lot of victims, a lot of victims. And so even to the point of last year when all of this stuff was happening, we used to have a seminar session called Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. I changed it for the reason that words really do matter. So I changed it to building a business of purpose, because that's what it's about. At the end of the day, it's about building businesses of purpose that serve global populations. So take diversity, take representation, take whatever words you want to use. To me, that is secondary. We have to learn to come together and work together. And for the people that are disappointed at the outcome of the election, or they're looking at, what's being discussed that's going to come down through Congress and the House, we can individually do what we do best and focus on that and come together with that and ignore all the rhetoric. Just keep doing the work, no matter what you call it.
Yeah, and I love to hear that, because I think we're going to let it settle down. What did it used to be called? Equal Opportunity Employment.
EEOC, that's right.
You could walk into the cafeteria and have the plastic laminate on. It was the EEOC.
Right.
And then when it became diversity, equity, and inclusion, it started to get that identity politics, weaponization to it, which, again, too many casualties. So if I'm a med tech leader, big company, mid company, small company, how do I engage with you? How do I extend out what your intention is, even if I can't engage with you?
We're very responsive. We've never had a company reach out that we've not worked with directly. But we started with the small to mid-size, but I have as many large companies reaching out right now. I think I mentioned I just did a whole session for B. Braun, which is a rather large organization, on the importance of this work. And so if you basically contact Diversity by Doing, we talk about ways that we can customize the work that we do to help you, whether it is doing our mentorship programs, whether it is sending your interns to us for the summer. We've got a great summer program. We've grown from 30 interns in that summer program to 150.
Wow.
And they send these interns to us because we accept women, and primarily people of color, first generation. They spend 2 days learning things like the biodesign process and listening to CEOs, failures that have come through, opportunities, successes. We teach them about the entire the med tech landscape, I should say. And the concept, it's interesting because those interns got a summer job, right? Okay, so some of them might stay. Some of them might just been a summer job. My intention is to say, stay, love it, enjoy it, and look at these 150 people that look more like you than anything ever before. So, we've got multiple ways to engage with people that reach out to us. Like I said, we've done workshop series, we've done things. For me, it's practical, actionable things that matter. So the talking about it is fine. We do all the advocacy stuff, but we actually have in hand potential talent for those companies to hire. And we also have the knowledge and background to fill in the white space for them. They might be interested in this work, they might be doing some of this work, but sometimes they need an outside view, or they need the support to make it happen. For the small and mid-sized companies, they're trying to get to market. So how are they going to even figure out what they need to do around this work? Well, that's what we're there for.
So is it a not-for-profit? Is it a for-profit? How do we continue to stand you up economically?
Yeah, it's a not-for-profit. And so, as you know, not-for-profits are always out there doing fundraising, which is a big part of what I do. Applying for grants, it's very competitive. I'm hoping that I see more strategics supporting the work that we're doing through sponsorship, to be honest. This is going to be their future talent pipeline. And it is important to stand up the work. I think internally they have the different initiatives. For me, what I'm doing is not an initiative. It is a lifestyle. It is something that we should be doing all around. So, people that are interested in really making an impact in the future of what MedTech looks like, those are the people that we look to partner with.
Well, thank you again for coming today. I really appreciate it. I know you've been on a busy couple of weeks down here in Florida.
I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it. Thank you.
I'll chat with you soon.
All right.
I'm Joe Mullings from 160 Studios. Be well.